Sister Mary Liu, NTUC President, Brother Chan Chun Sing, Secretary General, brothers and sisters, a very happy May Day to all of you. I was very happy just now to listen to Brother Chun Sing and to watch him introduce new people on stage and have the new people have a chance to speak to you and tell you what they're thinking of doing. I think it's the right way for the labor movement to go. It's the right way for Singapore to go. One of these days, I'll do the same thing like Brother Chun Sing. We have good reason to celebrate today. Last year, our economic growth was better than expected. We made 3.6% growth, much higher than the 1 to 2% that we had forecasted. More new jobs were created, average wages went up. Of course, a strong global economy gave us a boost, but our workers also did their part. And productivity growth was particularly encouraging. In fact, productivity growth last year was the highest we've had in 7 years. Since the special year in 2009-2010, when we were rebounding from the global financial crisis. This year, we have sustained the momentum, and we expect growth for the whole year to be 1.5% to 3.5%. And if all goes well, we should do better than 2.5%. I hope the things hold up and we get another good year. How our economy does depends on the external environment. The major economies, US, Europe, China, they should be all right this year. Beyond that, weaknesses may show up, and we can see some things which should worry us in the longer term. But even now, there are tensions brewing which are clouding the outlook. The Trump administration in America has made trade a top issue, and especially trade between the US and China. It's imposed tariffs on solar panels, tariffs on steel and aluminum imports. It's putting restrictions, tariffs on $50 billion worth of Chinese products. And it's done all this unilaterally, without going through the WTO. The Chinese, politely but firmly, said they do not want a fight, but if there is a fight, they will 奉陪到底. That means accompany the US every step of the way to the bitter end. When the US imposed tariffs on $50 billion of Chinese products, the Chinese had no alternative. They responded. Similarly, $50 billion of US products will have special tariff. But it didn't end there. The US immediately escalated 100 billion of extra tariffs more on Chinese products, total 150 billion. So now it's not just a trade issue, but also a matter of face, and therefore so much harder to solve. And this is very worrying for us, for several reasons. First, Singapore will suffer collateral damage, even though we are not part of the fight. For example, when the Americans did duties on solar panels, on steel and aluminum, those duties are not just on China's products. They apply to other countries as well, including Singapore's exports. Even though Singapore companies are not subsidized, they are not dumping, but never mind. The Chinese say, 一竹竿打翻一船人. You just sweep the bamboo pole and everybody is knocked down. Likewise, when China a few weeks ago said they're going to have tariffs on synthetic rubber products, they named the US, EU, and Singapore. And that will impact our businesses too. So that's the first one, we can be collateral damage. Secondly, when the Americans act unilaterally like this, it undermines the WTO system. It's supposed to be open, supposed to be rules-based, supposed to be multilateral. That's how we all do business with one another. And that's how we can have free, fair, orderly world trade. And all countries, big and small, play by the rules. All countries, big and small, can benefit. Now, some big players are breaking the rules, doing what they want. Well, they are big, they can do it. But when they break the rules like this, it will encourage everyone else also not to have respect for the rules. And when they come under pressure, they are more likely to do the same. And the international trading system will become more uncertain, more risky. There'll be less trade, there'll be less investments. And in a world where the rules are not followed, all countries will suffer, but small countries like us will be worst hit. So that's the second reason to worry. The third reason for us to worry is because when the US and China have trade tensions, it won't just be about trade or about economics. It can easily lead to a more serious quarrel, which will affect the security and stability of the world. If the two countries fight over trade, I think it'll be very hard for them to cooperate on other issues. And it's going to generate more rivalry and suspicion between the two. Why are you doing this? Can I trust you? What precautions must I take? And then the other side will have to take more precautions. And then there will be more frictions and possibly conflict. And other countries who want to be friends with both sides will be put under pressure. Are you my friend or his friend? And we will be asked. We'll be asked by both sides. So what is at stake is not just prosperity, but war and peace. We can see these trends building up. There are dark clouds on the horizon, but the storm will take a while to gather. Chances are, for our economy, we'll be all right this year, but in the longer term, if these trends continue, it'll be very bad for the world and very bad for Singapore. As a small country, Singapore is always vulnerable to what happens around us. We don't control events, we don't determine what big countries do. All we can do is to speak up, make our voice heard on issues which matter to us. And hopefully, if what we say makes sense, people will listen, and we can have some influence on what happens. And that's why recently, when I went to the Po-Au Forum in China, I spoke about trade, and specifically about the tensions between the US and China. Then I took the same message, I wrote an op-ed, I published it in the Washington Post to reach the US audience. Because what I say in China, I must be prepared to say in America, and similarly, whatever I say in the US, I must be prepared to go to China and say it to China. And this way, we maintain our credibility with both sides and retain the trust of both sides. The week after Po-Au, I went to London to attend the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting, CHOGM, last week. And I pitched the same theme, the importance of trade and investments. Many Commonwealth members are small countries, including island states in the Caribbean and the South Pacific, much smaller than Singapore. Without free trade, their futures are bleak. So I made the message. I think people listen. I hope it will push the scales a little bit. But these are big forces, and we have to track which way the world is going.